So yeah, I had a lot of great teachers over my life, but there was one in particular that I learned a lot from, and it was the poet Robert Creeley. And I had gone to the University of Buffalo for my doctorate, in large part to study with a lot of the people that were there, including Robert Creeley. And we got fairly close. I got to meet with him every week, and he ended up being on my orals committee. And to get your PhD, you take classwork, and then for a year you read all of these books with 3 different people, and at the end there's an oral exam. And Creeley was in charge of my list on poetry and poetics. So we met once a week for 6 months talking about all these different books. And the day of the exam came, and he walked in, and there were books that we had talked a lot about. We had talked a lot about books by William Carlos Williams. We had talked about Shakespeare. There were people on the list that we had talked a little bit about, not a lot, and then there were a few that we really didn't touch on at all. And actually one of them had, the things that he had me read was The Tempest by Shakespeare. And so the day of the exam came in. As I said, he walked in and sat down, and the exam began, and he started asking me questions. And he said, Richard, tell me how Shakespeare's The Tempest is a poetics. And I, slipped into my, graduate student voice, and I said, well, I think that what we need to do is look at it in terms of Shakespeare's body of work. And if we do that, he said, no, we don't. How is it a poetics? And he just interrupted me like that, and I stopped, and I didn't know how to answer. So I said, well, if we look at it within the history of literature, where it occurs in the development of thinking about poetry, he said, no, we don't have to think about it in terms of history. How is it a poetics? And again, I was completely taken off guard. And I tried another approach, and another, and he kept shutting me down. And till all that was left was for me to answer really directly and spontaneously. And that's really what he had been trying to do, was to basically cut me off from all of the graduate student discourse, all the tools, all the sort of patterned ways of thinking and speaking, so that I had nothing left but to answer truthfully and authentically and deeply. And that was the thing that really, I think, changed my thinking about everything. That really, that spontaneous and that authentic way of speaking, a way that is actually anti-academic, was really profoundly moving for me. And it's something that I try to impart to my students as well. How do we break through the habits of thought or the habits of speaking and get to the real activity of thinking, because that's where things occur, not in our habits.